am Orlando Jones, and I just want you to know that the Moana Nui Podcast will be starting soon. Stay tuned, yo.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Moana Nui Podcast. Tonight we are discussing the importance of cultural practitioners as part of our Kuleana series in sponsorship and partnership with Papa'ola Lokahi. Excited to partner and collaborate with one of our continental partners tonight, Kalo Hawaiian Civic Club. Coming out of the state of Oregon. We have had their founder, and I don't know if she would like me to call her this, but CEO on the show before. So she is Ohana to this podcast. So excited to have her with us. And tonight we are bringing our opio. And for those who don't know, that's our youth. Onto the podcast to hear their voices on this topic. And I think it's really important to hear their perspectives and their unique way in which some of the unique challenges that they face when it comes to staying connected to culture and perpetuating it here on the continent. But before we dive in, I'll just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Moana McAdams. I am the founder of the Moana Nui Podcast. I'm also a children's book author for the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea series, a publisher here at Burning Spear Comics with our comic book series, The Wildcard Chronicles. And a cultural ambassador and advocate for our communities, and a champion, friend, and ally to our BIPOC communities as well. So thank you all for joining us. As we go through tonight's conversation, please feel free to jump in with questions in the chat if you would like, and we will bring those up as those come in. So I will go ahead and announce our guests. So I'll start with our moderator. As I mentioned, Leialoha. She's the CEO and founder and leader there at Kalo Hawaiian Civic Club. And excited to have her with us. So welcome, Lei.
Aloha.
Next, we have, I have two people on one screen, so let me introduce them together and in order. First, we have Mayma Garvy. She is 17-year-old, and she identifies as a proud Nihonjin here in the Pacific Northwest. Her ohana, and she came to Oregon in 2007, but she was born in Vacaville, California. I hope I'm saying that right. She's one of the founding members of Mohala's Youth Council, and they focus on encouraging youth to be engaged in civic activities, community organizing, and leadership development. And with her is Chloe Rodrigues. Chloe is the Director of Government Relations for Mohala Youth Council. She was born in Torrance, California, to her mom, who is Mexican from East LA, and her dad, who is Puerto Rican from Kona, Hawaii. She has been living in Oregon since 2010 and dancing hula with Halau Kale Halia Okalokelani shortly after in 2012. She is also 17 years old and a senior at Aloha High School. So let's welcome both of them to the show. Aloha.
Aloha. Aloha.
Awesome. Next, we have Sophia Sakaino. She is a sophomore at Southridge High School in Oregon. She's also a member of Mohala Youth Council, a group of young leaders devoted to uplifting opio voices through community work and discussions. She's lived in Oregon, and most of her family lives on the island of Oahu. She gets to live a mixture of both places by being a hula o lapa, also at Kalehalia o Kalokilani. And she's been a part of that halau for almost a decade. In her free time, she enjoys volunteering, thrifting, and trying new food. All right. Aloha, a fellow foodie.
Aloha.
Aloha, Sophia. And then last but certainly not least, Kahoku Ka'ula. She was born in Hilo, and she's also the daughter of Leialoha. She moved to the continent when she was 5, and she has been dancing hula for almost 12 years now. She also volunteers closely with uh, K- Kalo HCC of Oregon and Southwest Washington. She is the director of health for Mohala Youth Council, and she is also an editor and writer of Na Kamali'i Talk Story, Inquiring Minds of Today's Youth. Oh, we got a talk story about that. She's also attending Pacific University to pursue her bachelor's degree, and she was one of the founding members and president of her high school's Pacific Islander Club. So, welcome, Kahoku. Aloha.
Aloha.
Alrighty. So tonight, Leialoha is going to moderate our conversation. So I'm gonna hand it over to her, and we'll get started. Mahalo, sis.
Mahalo to you, Moana, for having us. Mahalo for having this space for our Kanaka and our opio to be able to come and share. And yes, I have very much enjoyed not only being a part of the podcast, but also listening. And we do also love her books. It's in our library. I'm here at Kalo. Miss Sherry Daniels is also a huge fan. So she hooks us up in our library. So mahalo
Yes.
nui loa. Again, aloha mai kako. My name is Leialoha Ka'ula, and I am with Ka'ahalahui Ole Kona Hawaiian Civic Club, also known as Kalo HCC here in Oregon. And this evening, I'm very proud to be joined by our OPO, our youth leaders of Oregon, our Mohala Youth Council. I know we're missing a few of them, but tonight I think the conversation, hopefully I'm on the right track, is that we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a youth, an OPO living in the diaspora, and what those kuleanas and what all of that looks like. And so just talking story and asking questions. Yeah, hopefully, especially because we live, so making sure I'm right. I think, what was it, September, we were very fortunate enough to host our first Ahopio retreat here in Oregon, and we were welcomed by our OPO in California. They came up to join us, and one of our main conversations, which is what stemmed me to asking Auntie Moana, like, hey, would the OPO be awesome on the podcast? And the question was, that we posed to our youth was, youth on the continent have had to reroute and re-educate themselves to be able to stay rooted in their cultural values due to the inaccessible resources and direct connection to culture. And so when that topic came up, a lot of conversation started to stem, and it started to really open up, what our OPO go through. A lot of times we hear about our adults. I was on the panel that talked about the importance of cultural practitioners here on the continent, but what we wanted to hear was from our OPO and why cultural practitioners are so important to them living in the diaspora and having to try to navigate, that Western education here on the continent. So I don't know if maybe we can start with you folks giving a little bit more introduction about yourself, and maybe talking about, because I think we're all united through hula. So maybe we can talk about why you dance hula and why hula grounds you in what you do. So we can start with Chloe.
Wow. So yeah, my name is Chloe. In terms of kind of immigration story of my family, so like I said, like what was introduced earlier, my dad's family is from the Big Island. My grandpa's side is from Kona, my grandma's side is from Hilo, and my dad decided to join the military, and move up here to the continent, but he has really strong roots in Hawaii, and our family has strong roots in Hawaii and the culture and like the land. And so he kind of passed that on to me and decided he wanted me to dance hula. So him and my mom put me in hula. And that's kind of been a pillar for my culture and my identity for a very, very long time. I also have another side of my identity, which is my Mexican side on my mom's side of my family. So I'm fluent in Spanish, and so those are like the kind of two sides of the coin that I play all the time. I think it's important for me personally that I have hula as a grounding point, because I am somebody who is practicing a culture that is not my race. And so, like, because I have that point to go back to, I can like tell people like, this is my immigration story. This is like the language that I speak through hula. And so when we're talking about cultural practitioners and why in diaspora it's so important to have those cultural practitioners, it's so that we can have like that point to go back to and then tell our stories from Hawaii or from wherever else we come. Yeah, so that's me.
Okay.
Mayma, you want to go next since you're like right here?
I'll go next. So my story in my bio mentioned I'm Nihonjin, so I'm Japanese. My family and I, we always visit. We have family back in Japan, so we like to go there once a year. But there was one year where we couldn't go to Japan, so we're like, let's meet halfway. So we all met in Hawaii. And so after that, my mom, she signed me up to join the halau. I didn't know what I was putting myself into. I thought it was just another activity, but once I started learning the significance of hula and how it's a cultural practice to the people of Hawaii, I really grasped to it. And so hula, because I'm not of Native Hawaiian descent, hula helped me with my identity, I think, because I guess being Japanese and living in the US, on the continent, it's very hard because there's like two different stereotypes when you're a person of another culture living on the continent. And so I was very lost, but hula with the halau, it has helped me with reconnecting back to my cultural roots and expressing that proudly here in the US. So yeah. Oh, wait, I'll move it on. Kahoku.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. No, I'm Kahoku. For me, I love hula. I've been dancing for a long time, but it wasn't until recently that I like fully understood like my connection with it, and like how it made me more grateful for having hula in my life and what hula has brought me. It's brought me like my hula sisters, the people I know and love today. Moving away for college, it's definitely, you understand more of like the importance of it. I think I wasn't able to actually attend an in-person class, and so when I finally went back and I danced with all of them, and I wasn't like on the other side of a screen watching them while I was on the other side doing like my own thing in my room, it felt different, and I cried because you just don't feel the same. And so dancing with your hula sisters in person after like not dancing with them for a long time, it feels different. You feel more of a connection and you feel more grounded in who you are. And I'm glad I have that, because I'm fortunate enough to be able to still dance hula even when I'm away from like my halau and my family and my home. Granted, it's not far away, but like sometimes you can't always make the trip out. So just having that like outlet, it's freeing in a way that like no matter where you are, where you go, your family and connection will always be there. And that's like what hula is for me. So I'll pass it on to Sophia.
Oh, Hoku, how are you gonna say that? I'm all choked up right now. I mean, echo everything that the girls already said. Hoku kind of summarized it well. Like, I think maybe right now I'm even like taking hula for it, taking it for advantage, because like sometimes I just reflect and it's like hula has provided me more than just hula basics and learning songs and oli, but like the halau has been one of the most stable families I've had. And so I've got stop. And it has just provided with me. Oh my gosh, guys. We're only like 10 minutes into the podcast. It's just yeah. So a little bit about myself. Let me go there. Um I have a similar story to Chloe. My I have my family comes from the Philippines, China, Japan, and immigrated to Hawaii to work on the plantations. And I don't have any Hawaiian descent at all. And I think that's especially important because I have to acknowledge that I'm not Hawaiian. I'm not in a place where I can speak for Hawaiians at all. Um, and that the fact that I am practicing this culture by dancing hula and like learning olelo, I need to know my place. And navigating that has been really helpful with kumule and just all my hula sisters. Um, but yeah, I think going back to when my when my when my grandparents immigrated to Hawaii, they were automatically faced with a lot of assimilation. And so my parents found that they were growing up a lot in Hawaiian culture. And so when it came to raising me and my brother, that's kind of all they knew. And so, especially when we moved to Oregon, it felt like nothing, there was no familiar faces. Everything was so foreign and they felt so like they just it was hard. It was really hard. It was difficult for my family. And so putting me in halal and seeing that I was flourishing in a space with like where I belong, I think that's just something I've kept to. Sorry, I'm not really making sense right now. um, but yeah, that's a little bit about me and a little bit about why I dance hula, what got me into hula. And yeah.
Can I add? Okay. I think like a common theme that is coming up in all of us is that halal is like a pillar or like a safe space for everybody. And I think that's something that a lot of people moving from Hawaii to the continent are trying to seek out, but they find it really hard. And I think what we're kind of demonstrating and the goal of a lot of these kind of pu'uhonua on the continent is to be creating these new generation of kids so that these safe spaces aren't so scarce. And so I think everything that we're saying is kind of an example of we're kind of spreading out. Like it's not going to be as scarce as it was before, and hopefully not everybody's experience is going to be as daunting as probably our family's experience moving from the continent. Like it can be just a less scary experience. And Sophia, I wanted to comment on something you said. You said that like we need to know our place. We need to know and it's not that we need to know our place because we stand on the same ground as everybody else. Like we are educated and we are raised in this culture just as everybody else, but we need to like just know our history, and other people need to know our history too. It's like because we come from the same place ultimately. It's just we need to know the histories of the people coming in and out of this place. And Hawaii is like that common dot, and everybody has a kuleana to know, like who has visited here, who has contributed to the aina, So we have a place, and nobody has a right to tell us that we have to know our place, because we know who we are.
Yes. Excuse me. I'm not choked. To take my glasses off because the glare. Yeah, I know, Sophia, we're only starting into this whole thing. Something that is special about this our group, or your folks' group that you've built, is that relationship and that understanding of who you are, the grounding, right? And I think that's where a lot of our conversation, right? Because cultural practitioners, the podcast that I was on, the conversation was, about being Hawaiian and being a cultural practitioner, or being a non-Hawaiian and being a cultural practitioner, right? And so for me, was very privileged to be able to be Hawaiian and know what it means to be a Hawaiian cultural practitioner, and offer that up here, right? Offer that to our community. And so I guess, and this might not be the question that we was going to ask, sorry, because you guys are looking at me like, Auntie, that's not, we didn't talk about that. So I guess my question to you folks is, as we've built our pu'uhonua, and I'm going to lead, this is from Auntie Moana's podcast that I was on. As we've built our pu'uhonua here in Oregon, and you folks have been together for well over a decade. Our halau has been in this space. We've really created a root here for ourselves. What would be the difference had I not been Hawaiian? What would you folks think? Would there have been a difference if I had come into this space and try? What have you folks seen? Like, what are the differences of having somebody who has that cultural connection that brings this to this space versus someone who doesn't? Am I making sense? Is that too deep of a question? And you guys are like, really? Okay. So because that was a question that, we talked about on our last podcast. And I think just to connect the two is just, as opio, like, what is the importance of having, like, cultural practitioners? Whoever would like to go first, unmute yourself and go.
If nobody else is gonna go first, I'll go first. I think there's definitely a lot of value in, for our specific example, there's a lot of value in you being Native Hawaiian, because our halau is built off of olelo, so that specifically for our specific example, it's very important. Also, I feel like in our generation might be like one of the first generations of people where there are a lot of cultural practitioners who aren't necessarily Hawaiian. I don't know that for sure. I could ask that as a question. Like, is this generation of Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners built up of more non-Native Hawaiians than before? Like, is that something you're starting to see more? Or, yeah, I don't know.
Are you asking continent-wise? Like, am I seeing more non-Native Hawaiians offering Hawaiian cultural practices versus people who are...
Like, authentically, though.
Authentically.
All across the board.
All across the board. There are definitely more who are authentically teaching culture versus those who are unauthentically teaching culture.
But like them before.
Than before. Oh gosh, no. I want to say in today's era, there are a lot more practitioners who are self-proclaimed practitioners. If I want to say that very mindfully and very respectfully, but very honestly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm still thinking.
You're still thinking?
I'm still thinking.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then I'll leave my answer at that.
Anyone else want to share? Awale? You guys ready for the next one? That one was deep.
It's a deep question because I'm still trying to think of more to say. Like,
it is a deep question. I think you guys can. I mean, even when we were on our podcast, it was a deep question. We were like, oh wow, that was
it really depends on like individual circumstances.
Absolutely.
Because like
And the connections you have.
Yeah, and the connections you have. Like definitely, like if you can trace where you learned from, you can trace your knowledge back to somebody who is Native Hawaiian and who has like significant roots in what you were taught.
Yeah. The ikekukuna.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Well, you know, Mekai. Okay, so I'm gonna lean back onto your folks's. So I think through your cultural practices, right? So being able to be part of halal, to be able to have hula as something that has rooted you folks in your identity, how has hula helped you in your activist? Like how has it, you know, been able to give you the pathway, you know, in civic engagement? How has hula engage that part of you? What role does hula play in that for you folks? And I think this kind of goes with the conversation we were having with our opio from Kaleponi, right? Like, you know, when you folks went to the Lo'i, when we went to the Mala in Oregon, right? We went to the Mala before we started, you know, working in the Mala. We already knew the practices, right? We had the practices, the protocols in place of how we were going to do that. And that was something that was a little bit new for those opio. Now they're in a same generation of you folks, right? So I guess, how does hula help you in the other aspects of your life? Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And maybe somebody not Chloe can go first this time. Not that I don't know. Okay, go ahead, Kahoku.
For me, it's taught me like a lot of my values besides like familial values. But it's also really nice because some cultures you can relate to each one, and you can connect with more people that way. And another thing is like, without hula, I probably wouldn't be the person I am today. I also probably wouldn't have the same mindset. With hula, it makes me more confident in a way. Like I feel more passionate about things. It's just made me more of like a grounded person in a way, and you can also see things in a different perspective, if that makes sense. Because everybody has their own opinions and their own perspectives and their own like cultural lens that they see through. And I guess like with hula, and you get to like meet more people and like make more connections that allows you to see more things than just one. So that's my answer.
I'm going to bounce off from Kahoku about being a more rounded person. I feel like because we're in halal and a lot of us aren't of Native Hawaiian descent, going back to like civic activities, like I think of, AOHCC from this past month, you're in a very Native Hawaiian environment. And so when you are not Native Hawaiian, you kind of feel like, oh, I don't have the say in all these stuff. But through halal, because we're all of different backgrounds and cultures, you kind of recognize and acknowledge your culture. And so it makes you more confident when you're put into different environments to speak out, not from like a Native Hawaiian perspective, but of like how you feel like passionately about the topic. Because even though we're not, so we all some of us attended the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs, and even though we aren't Native Hawaiian, we can still talk about the different topics because we have the passion and the knowledge for it.
Yeah, and even like growing up here, like
Yeah.
we have aunties and uncles who are Native Hawaiian. Like I
Yeah.
have nephew who is Hawaiian. Like
Yeah.
we have people who have raised us who are Native Hawaiian. So we also have like that sense of kuleana to kind of give back that reciprocal, like what was given to us and like the values and histories that were gifted to us. So we have a kuleana to take care of that community just as much as our own.
Because we were able to represent all of our families from Ole Kona at AOHCC.
Yeah.
In that convention. So
I think that's really beautiful. I wasn't able to go to the association convention, but to hear that they're making connections just makes me really happy. I think to this question, I can kind of respond in two different ways. So, like Kahoku and Mayma already shared, like halal has shifted my perspective and made me a more well-rounded person, especially because I felt like in halal, I grew up a lot with strong women, and they were a huge role model for me and who I believe that I could become. So yeah, I've taken a lot of inspiration after the Alakai and my kumu, who have just, in my eyes, been huge trailblazing role models. And I hope to take after them a little bit. And then another way I can answer this is that hula, like dancing quite literally, it's made me a lot more in tune with my body. And when I dance hula, I feel very strong. I feel like I know myself. I feel like, there's no shame. All the little things about maybe body image or whatever, it goes straight out the door. And yeah, when I dance hula, I feel the most confident. I think it's taught me a lot about how I should carry myself. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
Can I add to actually answer the question? Because I realized I didn't answer the question. I feel like it kind of relates to what Sophia said. So for me, well, like, I mean, just for anyone, hula is inherently like political and historical and traditional and everything. Like hula is everything. It can like describe all aspects of life. And so I feel like that really translates to what we do with Mohala and Kalo with civic activism, where like the discipline of it and just the knowing the history and all like the little intricate details, it's like both are necessary in both fields. And that's something that we've taken us, like these values we've taken with us as we're doing civic activism. And that's what makes kind of what Kalo does and what Mohala does, it makes it really unique, is that we have these values backing us up in a way that other organizations don't. And so we can do political things in a very conscious and very cultural way. So I feel that's for me, that's the big like impact that hula has had on my life, is just how I see the world and how I interact with the world.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I think hula is that, Sophia, like the people who continue to guide us in hula is amazing. At the convention for Nalima Kalapua's council meeting, we were very honored to have Dr. Aukahi Seabury come and speak to our group. And the conversation that I had connected with her was, how do we empower our Kanaka or our poe on the continent, when we are made to feel like we're not part of the lahui, or when those conversations come up, right? How do we get our people to just know, like, we're here? And I think this comes to support that being in the space as well. And something that was beautiful is that she said, when you look at other people, other culture, they always say the past is behind us, right? Our kupuna are behind us. The past, our ancestors are behind us. They're the past. But in Hawaiian culture, they're not, right? Everything we say is that they're in front of us. Like, they've laid the past. Yeah, ke ala hele, like ke alo na kupuna, like ike kupuna, everything. So I think with hula, for all of you folks, it's all of those people who have come before us that have empowered you folks. It's not necessarily just hula people. It's your kupuna, and your kupuna's kupuna is hula has allowed you to channel how to connect with those people, and how to take in what they have left for you as you walk through that path that they have guided. You're picking the flowers or the halua that they left for you folks as you plant the next one for the next generation who is coming, who is going to take that same journey to you. So yeah, and that's you folks. You guys are now the trailblazers. Just remember that. You guys are also trailblazers here. And so I had a question, but I think I'm going to save that one. I'm going to save the question, I got asked to later. One thing that you guys keep bringing up, right, is about like Hawaii, and you folks know, right, the work that Auntie does with Halau, with Kalo, every space I do represent our Pacific Islander people. And a conversation we always have, right, it's what does that allyship look like too, right? If you're from Hawaii, if your family's from Hawaii and you're not Kanaka, that's all you. Hawaii is who you know, right? You. How do you say you're not from Hawaii when your great grandparents were from Hawaii? Your parents were born in Hawaii. You cannot. And then when you are in a place in Hawaii where the light bulb has come on that you to find who you are, you know what I mean? So there's no one person that can. I go at what Chloe is saying. You folks are, very much in the space and the place that you folks need to be. And I think Ana Kalalanakila, when he came up here, he also said this, right? If your feet has touched the ground of Hawaii, if your family has drank the water of Hawaii, you have kuleana to Hawaii. And so we always have to remember that no matter where we are. And also remember that our ali'i also honor that too. The people who came to Hawaii to build Hawaii, was it so? Just keep that in mind. I know that is always a question. So as you folks, as you do what you folks do, and I think you've talked about hula, you've talked about all of this. What truly motivates you to do what you folks do as Mohala Youth Council, not as an olapa? What is the motivation behind the work and the activism that you folks? You guys have talked about how cultural practice has given you that kahua, that foundation. But now as you are grounded in who you are as in olapa, and you carry those values that those cultural practitioners have instilled in you, now moving forward, what is your motivation for Mohala? Look, you guys are like, Antile, what's happening here? These are questions. It's on the guys' paper. I'm just following the paper.
For me, it's a very nice thing to have on your resume and to have like on paper. But when it comes down to my reason why I'm with Mohala and why I'm involved with what Kalo and Mohala do is because I want to, I guess, create a place where youth, well, for my brothers, so they can have like a platform, but also for other youth and of color where they didn't have a platform to like voice their opinions and thoughts without being judged, which is kind of like our mission, but it's just like kind of paving the pathway almost, because there's certain things I'm very passionate about that I would like to see change, but I know that with things that big, it comes with like great patience and time, and you have to like, go slowly at it. And it's like, for example, like the House Bill 3144, that was a huge milestone, and getting that bill passed solidified my reason even more of why I'm involved with this work. So.
Can you share what is House Bill 344 for people who may be watching it doesn't know what House Bill 3144 is?
House Bill 3144 is it's the Pacific Islander Student Success Plan. It is implemented so that there's more resources for Pacific Islander students in Oregon, and it's the first of its kind nationwide. And it's a plan that will be implemented where it goes to schools and it creates resources for students that they can turn to. And it's first of its kind. So.
I think for me, there's like, especially for our BIPOC communities, we have, there's a lot of like stereotypes and assumptions, and a lot of the civic, like all of the big action, like all of the major, decision making, it impacts us. And so the only way that we can start change is by having foundations like Mohala Youth Council, because like one day Auntie Lei and everybody else, on the board of Kalo, they won't, in reality, they won't be here like one day. So who's going to take in that responsibility? And so Mohala Youth Council is, even if when we're older, it might not be something that, we might not see as like our future, like, I would say like, not career interest, but something that, I don't even know how to explain it.
Like, we might not continue doing it.
Even though we might not continue doing it, we have a foundation where we can go back to. And so I think Mohala Youth Council, one of my motivations is because, we're the next generation. And so after each generation, there's got to be a next. So it's what motivates me to keep going. Yeah.
And, sorry, you can go first.
No, Chloe, you can go. It's all right.
Okay. For me, I feel like I came into like social media and stuff like that kind of right around the Trump era when he got elected. So there was like a lot of political stuff happening, even in my house. There was a lot of political stuff happening. Like there was just more political discussions. And so I like started developing so many questions that weren't answered because social media is not where you go to answer questions. And so I started becoming a lot more politically confused and frustrated. And I feel like with Mohala, it not only gave me a way to become educated myself, but also be confident enough to go seek out answers and ways to change the things that frustrated me a lot. And I think I connect this back to family that I have who has not been able to access the law, and they haven't been able to access like knowing certain stuff about the government that could have benefited them so much. And I think it's really valuable to make the government and make civic activism accessible to our community, because it's such a valuable resource and it's such a privilege. And it's such an important part of like the way society operates.
Oh, it's hard to follow after Chloe. um, my answer to this question is pretty simple. Um, I'm I'm on the board of Mohala, and I do this work because I want to give back to the community that raised me. Um, the Native Hawaiian community, they've taught me so much and helped me form my identity and what I know, basically all of what I know today. And so if I'm able to advocate for um, anything like policies or resources or money for the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander or BIPOC community, I'm gonna do it. And it's kind of just a way of me expressing myself. Um, I've never done it because like I thought it was trendy or I thought it was, like what my parents wanted me to do. Oh, I actually hate that. I hate when like people ask me if my parents are like, did they sign me up for this or whatever. They didn't. Honestly, most of the time they don't know what I'm doing. um, but it feels like something I have to do. Like I'm given this opportunity to make my voice heard in so many spaces, and I mean, there are so many people who are supportive of me and want to hear my voice, and to not share it feels like a waste. So, in a way, when we talk about the work we do as Mohala, it doesn't feel like work. I don't think it ever has. It feels like me hanging around with my hula sisters. We're having fun, we're learning, we're making connections, but it's never felt like work. Um, yeah, that's my motivation. And I love doing it. I never want to stop.
I know all of you folks are part of other organizations or clubs or other things. What sets Mohala apart? Like why what not necessarily saying it's better or something, but you know, when you have access at school, or maybe you don't have access to school, maybe we can talk about that. Like I think Mohala came to be through Nakamani Talk Story, right? Nakamani Talk Story. And so, but you folks are all part of other organizations and clubs. Like why Mohala? Why still keep Mohala? Like what is the difference? How does it stand in a space where, you folks have tons of other clubs and organizations and things you could do?
I think for me, a lot of us are in a lot of different clubs, but especially because majority of us in high school, you're very like pressured on what you want to do in your future. And I feel like Mohala Youth Council kind of established what we're passionate for. And so we have people who are interested in, well, whether like through the work of Mohala, through the civic activities, we were able to find that passion of a career interest we want to do when we get older. So we have different like fields, like whatever, like law, Kahoku wants to do social work, me health. So it kind of, I'm a scrub.
Yeah, she's wearing her scrubs right now.
I had a rotation today. But we found our interest because of Mohala. It provided that space for us to grow. And so I think that's something that steps away from like regular school clubs, because although they are important, Mohala is more of like a community-based youth council that'll let you find your own passion at your own pace.
To kind of go off what Mayma said, Mohala, you're very like into the work because you get more experience, and like for example, if once you get more involved, you get to go to the conventions, you get to go to the AOHCC convention, you get to go to the conferences, you get to go to sometimes other youth organizations or other organizations in the community. You get more experience, and you also get more like of what's the word? A political experience in a way. And I don't know, and like you just get to dip your hands in multiple pots.
Okay, I'll go. So I think I can definitely speak to this because at school, or even outside of school, I'm a part of a lot of different leadership programs for youth, and so I'm able to speak my voice on different things affecting different communities. But what sets Mohala apart is that we all share culture, and so when we're doing this work, we have like instantly like some of the like similar value set, and we know where we're all coming from. Um, and it also just makes the process of like uplifting each other and um, making change just more fun. And like it's just really like uplifting to be around people who are like you. Um, but yeah, I hope that made sense. That's kind of what I had to say.
I think having seen Mohala like go into so many different spaces, like foundations and panels and webinars and luncheons, like I've noticed that not only are we the only youth in the room, not only the only BIPOC people in the room, but also the only indigenous culture in the room. And so a lot of people see so much value in that. And I think I said this before, that having those values, like those indigenous values, kind of rooting everything we do, sets us apart a lot. And as much as this kind of gets annoying, we sometimes people look at us to be the final say for a lot of things. Like I said, as annoying as it can be, like we're always asked to do stuff. Even like our Kalo leaders can attest to this, that because we're representing such a rare community, we're always asked to do things. But I think that's really what sets us apart. And Mohala specifically, as like a subsect of that, is that we're youth, and we're able to represent that side of Kalo so well because they give us such a liberal platform to be able to do that. Like they give us so much leeway to be able to do not whatever we want, but a lot of the things that we want to do. And so along with kind of the demand for that indigenous culture in our community, we also have that youth side, and I feel like the youth side is largely supported by Kalo.
Absolutely, we do. I speak on Kalo, on behalf of Kalo. We do. To go off of what Chloe was saying, yeah. Here in Oregon, we've gone to multiple government systems that have a name for youth. Like it's the blank youth blank or the youth blank blank that are federally funded or state funded to support the youth. And we have gone into meetings and they're surprised that Kalo brings their youth. And then we're surprised because we don't understand why we wouldn't have the youth. And so, Kalo, we appreciate all of you folks 100%. Because there are so many spaces. And, I just want to also piggyback off of that. And Chloe, we are very unique in that sense of having that youth voice. And I just want to remind you folks to make sure you hold on to that and don't say yes to everybody. Be very mindful on who you say yes to and the spaces you show up in. because a lot of times those spaces can often be a matter of just a checkbox. And so, yeah, I know we have this conversation. Oh, yeah, you're like, yeah. So just to kind of wrap it up, because we're getting towards the end. And again, mahalo to Auntie Moana for having this platform, and to all of across the continent, like to all of our clubs, all of our organizations. If you do not have a youth arm, a part of your organization, you need to start, because we're not the trailblazers. They are the reason Kalo is anywhere where we are. It's because of our youth and the work that they do, from taking care of our mala to growing halua to showing up in spaces, to volunteer, everything what they do. The most important is their voice. And the second thing, I think, is the allyship. I think something that's unique about Mohala is that when you folks show up in spaces, like Chloe said, you represent indigenous people, but you also represent so many cultures, right? Like you folks, the reach that you have in Mohala, I think is what's very unique about you folks too. And so, we've been in spaces where we're often reminded, or we're segregated. We're put into places where when we're on the continent, we're different. When we're living on the continent, we may not know as much, and our voice is not as valued. And I'm glad to be in community with you folks so that you guys remind us that that's not the case. And I know that you folks have also been in those spaces. And so I hope you guys continue to do this work. However, to close, I want you guys to close with this, to get all of our opio a part of this, because no matter where you live, no matter where you are, we're all together. We're not segregated. We do this work to empower everybody. But if you could describe what opio empowerment will look like in the future, okay? So again, if you could describe what opio empowerment will look like in the future, what would that look like? What do you hope it looks like? Yes, the question was for you folks, so you just gotta unmute and answer. Do you guys need to answer the question again?
No, I had the question. I'm trying to word it in a way where it isn't.
Nope, just say it.
I guess opio empowerment to me looks like where a group of youth don't need to second guess themselves and being in a place where it's predominantly not of people of color or not of youth. I would like to see more. It's where like youth are more comfortable, where like if they hear something that's going on, like an event, they're not gonna think, oh, what is this? Oh, should I go? Or what if there's not people like me? What if I can't connect with anyone there? What if, like all the what ifs? So maybe like more of an open environment, I guess, so that youth are more comfortable in joining and more confident in sharing their voices. So, and also having the support system that we're fortunate to have. So that's what opio empowerment looks like to me.
To bounce off of Kahoku, real quick, I just want to say for me, I hope that in future opio places or environments, Auntie, I love you guys so much. I love all the aunties and uncles, but I hope to see, I guess, less makua in those spaces and more of the opio leading, because I guess when we have the makua in the rooms, we kind of let them do all the organization and the talking, and we just kind of use it as like another like workshop space. So we're not able to what's it called? Collaborate with each other and stuff. So I feel like once OPO are given the leadership opportunity, well, there's so many leadership opportunities, but once we have it, you know, for ourselves, for each other, that's something that I hope the future holds for empowerment for the OPO.
I completely agree. Peer-to-peer like empowerment and conversations, everything is so powerful. And I think something that Mayma didn't add but is really important is that when adults are talking to us, you know, it's not the same. We don't register it the same. And I think I've been holding a voter registration drive at my school, and you wouldn't believe like just what talking in like this sounds corny, but like a teenager type lingo, not being super like formal or but like just speaking at a level they would understand, connect to. It has so much power. And so a different kind of answer is that peer empowerment looks like we're confident in our power. And that, like Kahoku said, we're not second guessing ourselves. We know that our opinion matters and that we just need to be respectful about it. And yeah.
For me, similar to what Kahoku and Mayma said, kind of, I feel like the future of OPO empowerment is like a lot more collaboration and like true like working together type of collaboration, not just like, oh, those are the leaders and then those are the people being helped.
Yeah, because
like,
when the Maku are talking, the OPO aren't talking.
Yeah,
so.
Like it's just even amongst like youth too, like you see certain youth as, oh, those people are the leaders, or those are the people that are like gonna do the thing, and then these are the youth that need help. Yeah. It's like, no, like I think it's gonna be, or I don't know, the future of OPO empowerment would be just
OPO empowering
the community, and that's something that I experienced for I feel like it was the first time for me at the AOHCC convention. It was just like that willingness to be like to have that reciprocal relationship and to workshop all of these problems together. So that's
And what workshop are you talking about? Can you share the
well, the workshop I was referring to was like to workshop, but we did a workshop at convention.
We did.
That it was so okay. We
Inquiring Minds of Today's Youth.
Yeah, I guess it was Inquiring Minds of Today's Youth. It was originally going to be a panel about basically this culture in diaspora for the youth, but and we were joined by an OPO that we know from Oahu that we've been in space with multiple times. That was going to be our moderator. And it happened that some students from Kamehameha schools were also going to be attending convention that day, and they happened to attend our workshop. And so it turned into kind of a talk story. So we made a circle, and we the adults were on the outside, listening. Yeah. Well, they were listening, and
originally we were gonna be the panelists.
They were collaboratively listening.
Yeah, we were like. Originally, we were going to be the panelists, and we were like, whoa, let's not make it like this. Let's make it more.
So we made it a circle, and we bounced off of each other's ideas, and it was the first time that we felt like we were able to relate with OPO from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going off the camera. And that was the first time I felt that like relationship start to build, and it gave me a lot of hope. Not just for the work being done at the association level, but for the work that's being done for Hawaii in the politics and
Yeah.
land rights and everything, and how we can help and how they can like help us establish our resources up here. Yeah, like that Pilina was like
Yeah.
very, very apparent.
So for
And it was very symbolic, the way that we had the room structured.
Empowering for us is opio empowering other opio. So even if it was going to be a panel, that meant that only us, we were giving our manaos. So we wanted to bounce that off to the other opio who were joining. That's why we created that circle, because no matter what, as the panelists, we're the only ones giving our answers. So we wanted to provide that space for them too, because we want to empower them.
Beautiful. So what I'm hearing is that opio, the future of opio empowerment is for the makua to step outside of the circle and listen. Yeah, listen. And when we have to say something, maybe then we raise our hand. So I believe I also, Auntie's an advocate for that. So I love that. So again, mahalo for your folks' manao, mahalo for your folks' time, mahalo for sharing all of your stories. Again, Mohala Youth Council is a huge part of Kalo, and it is a huge part of the Kalo success on who we are as a Hawaiian Civic Club in Oregon and Southwest Washington. These young ladies are very much amongst the many of our halau. All of our halau members, are the foundation of what we do culturally, and our cultural practice thrives here in Oregon because of all of them. And so, again, mahalo to you folks. Mahalo for sharing. And we hope that you folks look up Mohala Youth Council. And, did Mayma have something? Yeah, go ahead, Mayma.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. It is Mohala_YC, M-O, Chloe, M-O, Chloe, M-O-O, you can't see, okay, it's MOHALA_YC, Mohala Youth Mohala_YC. Follow us on IG.
You can also find them on kalohcc.org. They have their own tab on the page. You can read about them and read about all of their past YouTubes. I think they have a Nakamali Talk Story. Was an awesome 2-year run as they were navigating COVID. So, and they had some pretty awesome people. I'm sorry, my dog also wants to talk right now. But Chloe was on a panel with Dr. Fauci and the second gentleman. We had chief medical officers. We had educators, cultural practitioners. I mean, their work was awesome. So definitely take a look. Mohala Youth Council. Mahalo again to Auntie Moana for having us. Mahalo for giving us this space. Mahalo for creating this space for our community, for the Pacific Islanders, as well as our BIPOC community, and just bringing this to all of us. So mahalo, 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 mahalo. And aloha.
Mahalo, everybody. I really appreciated the conversation tonight. And I'm so glad that you guys said, that sometimes the makua need to just step back and listen to the youth. That's something I personally kaka'o 1000%. And I am always looking to see, looking for the youth voices. So I want you guys to think about, how the Moana Nui podcast can help to empower you guys. What ideas, topics, workshops, whatever it is that, the collaborations that you guys do, please think about that and let me know how we can support that and uplift the voices, because I really do want more OPO voices on the podcast. And also, Auntie's old. So if there are platforms that where are the youth? Where do we need to be on the digital spaces? If there are other, whatever those are, I'm over here on Facebook. Yeah, I'm old. But if there are other places that, we could increase and expand the reach, that would be better than the other platforms that we are using. I am always open to that mana'o as well. So Look, my mom, the kupuna, she's in the comments. I love it. She's like, I love that the opio are rising and taking their place in action. We makua will not last forever. Imua na opio. Yay. Oh, I miss my mommy. I can still be opio in that sense. But yeah, I just want to mahalo you guys and thank you guys so much, and mahalo Le for bringing it to me and giving us a chance to to be the launch pad for more content like this. I look forward to our next conversation, and if you wanna, if there's opportunities for us to set up some kind of regular show for you guys, maybe once a quarter or whatever you guys think about it, and let me know, and we can work it into our rotation, because we have episodes every week, so we can figure something out. Okay, well, thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching live or on the replay. Please follow Moana Nui Podcast on all of the different platforms. I'm just gonna drop the link in case people come later. We're on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook every Thursday at 7 and 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and on all of your favorite podcast platforms. And you can find us Moana Nui Podcast. Alrighty. With that said, I'm gonna say ahui ho. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and mahalo to our veterans for their service. Take care, everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Ahui ho.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the Native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Ka'ula as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Ka'ula as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.